Hello again, everybody, and welcome to my next review. Today, we're not going to be talking about a movie or a TV show. We're going to be talking about a game, more particularly a simulator, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, their latest iteration. So, just a little background. I've had much experience with the past iteration of Microsoft Flight Simulator, being Microsoft Flight Simulator 10. Logged many hundreds, if not thousands, of hours into it over the years since I first got it. So I'm mostly just going to be approaching this review as someone who is very much interested in flight and someone who's had experience with flight simulators and continues to do it. Up on the wall here, you see that tail? Yeah, you can see that. You know, I have some RC planes. What I kind of do on the side is a side hobby of mine is radio-controlled aviation. So this is what this is going to be. It's going to be a review of the sim. Now, it's not going to be as in-depth as the other reviews, the Boys Season 2 review and the Rise of Skywalker review. But I do have my notes here, what we're going to talk about. I'm mostly going to go through what the game has to offer, some of the pros for it, some of the cons. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And another side note before the review starts, as I'm not going to be reviewing this as talking about how realistic I think it is, because I'm not a real-world pilot, so I can't offer too much in that realm. But there's plenty of videos online of real-world pilots trying out the sim and giving their thoughts on it, so you can check it out there. So I'm just going to be reviewing this as someone who is a fan of the series. So Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 is the successor to the very popular Microsoft Flight Simulator 10. And it was about a 14-year span before it came out, because Microsoft Flight Simulator 10 originally released in 2006, and this newest sim released in 2020. So it's been a very long time since they had a wide release. They did have something called Microsoft Flight released in 2012, but it was kind of a very small game and really something they kind of abandoned. They didn't see it going anywhere, and it wasn't really that successful. And basically, what happened is that this simulator was highly anticipated because in Microsoft Flight Simulator 10, it seemed that Microsoft was going to stop supporting the flight simulator community. Like, they weren't planning to make anything new. They had no content. They're basically going to just leave it and move on to other things. So pretty much what kept FSX alive was just the third-party extensions and the add-ons developed by separate and independent companies to enhance the look and feel of the simulator. You know, Steam also picked it up. We got Microsoft Flight Simulator Steam Edition, so that it could be there because it was still supported and still played by the community at large. Also, Lockheed Martin kind of made their own sim, heavily based off of the UI interface and built of Microsoft Flight Simulator. They made PrepR 3D. Most people in the flight sim know this already. So yeah, it was a very long time, and no one ever thought that we would see another version of Microsoft Flight Simulator ever again. But then it was announced in the year 2019, I believe, Microsoft Flight Simulator was coming back with a brand new version, and it looked amazing, and I was blown away. I remember first finding out about it, I was at my last job at a Cinemark Theater in the box office, just sitting there waiting for stuff, and then I get a notification about a trailer for Microsoft Flight Simulator. I was like, holy cow. It blew my mind, and that was the thing I was most excited about from all the announcements of E3, that Microsoft Flight Simulator. So with a 14 to 15 year gap, it was really anticipated to see if Microsoft would live up to their, to their last simulator. So, and here's what I'm going to do. That's pretty much what I'm going to see. Does it hold up, and what do I think of the iteration? Because it's been out for about 6 months-ish now. It came out in August, and currently it's February. So yeah, so I'm going to go through it and see what it has to offer and see is it worth the hype that over that 15-long-year gap between the two iterations of the sim. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so when you buy the sim, you have 3 editions. You have the Standard Edition, the Deluxe Edition, and the Premium Edition, basically. Now, in terms of this, which edition should you get? I put it simply this way. If you're an average gamer, you seem more of a gamer and you just want to try out the sim for fun, go for Standard. If you are a hardcore sim user and love having access to lots of different aircraft and lots of DLC content, as a lot of flight sim users usually do, you can go for the Premium Edition because it's the best deal currently out right now in terms of DLC add-on. Because I made a video in the past complaining about the different editions of Microsoft Flight Simulator and the 3 different editions of it. And I was pretty upset with the fact that basically the only thing you were getting with an extra $60 is 10 more planes and 10 more detailed airports, and that was it. You weren't getting anything else. But at the other side of the argument was the fact that most planes when they're sold singularly by a third-party company are about 30 to 50 bucks a plane, and with this premium edition, you were getting basically it for like a few bucks a plane. So, like I was saying, if you're a standard gamer user, you want to check it out, don't buy the premium edition. Don't recommend it. You're not going to get much out of it. You know, if you or someone who wants a wide arsenal of aircraft or whatever, like me, you can go ahead and get the premium edition because it's pretty much like some of the best value DLC on the market right now. All right, so we're going to start with the menus, and we're going to first start with the profile menu. So in the profile menu, you have the pilot profile, the hangar where you can view all your planes and stuff, content manager, and logbook. So logbook is where you view all your stats. You can view the dates you did flights, the plane it was in, the time of your departure and where it was, and where you arrived and at what time, your total flight time, was it night, was it day, and how many takeoff and landings occurred in that flight. It basically keeps a log of everything you ever done, because it has every single flight I've ever done and keeps track of it. So very handy tool to know what you flew and where and all that stuff. It's also worthy to note that the more hours you get, the more you level up as a pilot. So on pilot profile, here you can view many different stats and benchmarks like total flight time, total flight flying upside down, flight time with autopilot, number of times you crashed, max flight distance, that kind of deal. It has very specific stats that you can look at and keep track of it. It keeps track of your hours, training, etc. You know, and also your achievements. It gives you up some achievements you can achieve. All right. One of my personal favorites is Hangar. So in Hangar, basically, you can view all of the aircraft in great graphical detail. All the different aircraft that you have available to you. So we're currently looking at a Dahir TMB 930, a turboprop plane, very fast and can fly very high. And you have different things you can do. So you have this like cinematic shots viewing, you know. Then you have like you can do the look around at it in more detail. Then you can have like just a cockpit view where you can just look around in the cockpit and take a gander while in the hangar here. And I really like this feature. It reminds me of Forza, you know, in Forza Horizon 3 and 4, where you're at the festival or you're at like a checkpoint or a house, whatever, where you can view your cars in detail, change stuff about them, and sit in them and just have a look around the interior. So I really like this feature personally. No, it's not really too much. It's just looking around, but it is good, and you can change the aircraft like so. So if you want to see a Cub Crafter, you can change the different camera angles and get inside the cockpit and take a look around you. So really like that a lot. And then last is Content Manager. And this is basically just where, in terms of all the updates that Microsoft Flight gives, or the DLC you add to it, or the third-party content, it tells you what's installed, what's not installed, is any of them downloading currently, are any of them up to date, all that. This is basically where you manage all the content. It's very useful. It also tells you how much space you use, which is right now 116 gigs. All right, next menu is Marketplace. So this is basically where you buy all of the DLC. All of the DLC for the sim made by all the famous third-party companies for flight sims like Coronado, Orbix, Aerosoft, etc. Lots and lots of stuff. So they sell things for ranging from detailed airports to other aircraft to cities to landmarks, etc. And it's constantly being added all the time. There's new stuff added constantly and all that. So if you want to find all the third-party available to it, this is a good place to go. You should also search online. There's some stores that are selling their own third-party software that you can't find in the Marketplace tab in the Flight Sim, so I would recommend doing that as well. The next one is Options. This is basically where you access General, Assistance, Controls. General is where you adjust things like graphics, sound, camera, data, traffic, etc. Assistance, where you adjust the simulator's kind of realism, and like things, do you want automatically done or do you want to do them yourselves? You know, basically make it easier or more true to life in terms of how the plane operates. And Controls is basically where you see like what buttons control what key combinations do what, hooking up your joystick and programming the buttons to do what, etc. All right, now to the meet and greet. We're done with that. Let's get that out of the way. Now we're to here. So on the welcome screen, you have a few options available to you. You have the world map. This is basically where you do your free flights, where you fly wherever you want. You fly any city, any place in the world, in any plane, create flight plans, etc. To the right of it, you have the current like challenge available. So this is kind of like something that over time it changes. Like basically there's just the current challenge that's available to the flight sim community to do. So right now we have a Paris Charles de Gaulle snowy airport landing that you can try out. And basically as the sim updates, it gives a new challenge to do. So it's kind of like Forza, where they have that Forza-thon, where it's like every week of stuff to do, and then when it gets to the next week, you have more stuff to do. So, you know, like that. And that's basically what it is. It's a challenge that constantly rotates out with a new challenge every update. I don't know in terms of time span. I don't know if it's like every week, 2 weeks or so. I think it's like maybe every month or anytime the sim gets a major update. But anyway, you have below that flight training. You can learn the basic fundamental flight training and skills, so you can learn a bit about how a plane works, what controls what, and that kind of deal. Takeoff training, navigation training, etc. And then under that is activities. This is like basically stuff for you to do that's not in free flight. So basically challenges or other activities you can do are under this. So, all right, so let's go ahead and get into the world map menu. So when you get into the world map menu, you have the world option to you. It tells you all the airports you have. Basically all the dots is basically either landmarks or airports you can start at. So basically you can choose where you may want to go. So, you know, if you wanted to start, I think up here is like Seattle. So let's say Seattle. You can set it as your departure. And then you can choose which runway you want on and what frequencies are going to be available at this airport. You also can set another airport and, you know, set it as your arrival. And then it will make a flight plan for you. It'll tell you how long it will take to get from that point to the other. So from that point to that point, 666 nautical miles. Oh, devil number. It'll take 5 hours and 34 minutes in the Cubcrafter. But however, you can change your aircraft here from the aircraft setting. Let's see. So, you know, if you want to go in something, let's say more like a 787 Dreamliner, you can. And then you can choose its liveries from the few you have in this section. You can select, weight and balance. You know, this is where you adjust the weight and balance, how much fuel you have on board, you know, how much weight is taking up each section, and making sure that your weight is centered, because weight is important in terms of flying. Failures, you can say if you want to encounter a failure in flight, so you can like practice or, you know, do stuff when that happens, you know, you can enable it and say, when do you want it, you know, do you want to enable this failure in this particular area of the plane? When do you want it to fail? And how long do you want it to fail for? So, you know, it's a good way to practice in case, you know, a failure ever comes by. And then ATC options. This is where you can say, adjust your tail number, call sign, flight number, append heavy to call sign, and show tail number. So, you know, you can make your own, you know, call sign and what the air traffic controller will call your plane as. All right, so escape that. And then you have your flight conditions here. This is where you set your multiplayer and traffic and weather and time. So multiplayer, you can say off or groups only, where it's either solo mode, not online, or basically with a group, like a server you create or whatever, just a group that is just to the people you invite. All players, when we see it, all players online and all throughout the world, regardless of their settings. And then live players in which other players will be visible if they also have set their multiplayer settings to live and share their same air traffic control settings. So live is like live right now. You know, like you have to fly within the current time zone of wherever you are. So like, you know, it's 2:04 p.m. where Seattle is, and it's currently raining. So you have to, it's basically real world. You're flying in the real world right now. So that's what live players is. Air traffic, you can have it either be live, so live real world traffic. Well, actually, no. I think live traffic is more just it's random. I'm sorry. I don't think it's like real world flights that are happening in the world. My bad. Air traffic will set to pre-existing patterns. And then or off, where no traffic at all, where you're the only plane in the world. But that's not fun. And then you have the weather and time. Do you want it live? Do you want it presets? Some presets, so like, oh, clear skies, few clouds, thunderstorms, cold fronts, or custom, where you can adjust everything. So if we go there and say, let's say like scatter clouds, then you can adjust the thing. What day is it? What time of the day it is? You know, do you have any calculation for altitude, snow depth, aerosol density, precipitation, lightning, the temperature, the pressure, you know. Do you want wind? How many wind layers do you want? And how many layers of clouds do you want? So yeah, it's I would say it's pretty dang uh, you have a lot of options. You have a lot of things you can customize about the flight. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Okay, so that's enough about the menus and currently the things you can do in there. So we're going to go ahead and go to in-flight. We're actually going to boot this thing up and actually fly in it. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so now we're actually into the simulator. Before we take off here, we want to get used to something up here. So when you're in flight and in the sim, you have these menus available to you. So the first is just active pause, so basically it just pauses or unpauses the sim for you. Your ATC window, where you can announce where it's the AI computer ATC, where you can talk to the towers and to the other planes around you in the simulator and say what you're doing and why. You have the cameras, so it tells you what cameras you have. You've got a cockpit, external, and then showcase. Showcase is basically like you set the camera where you want. It's basically free camera. Go where you want, set where you want, that kind of deal. External just basically follows the plane in an external pattern like this. It'll just always follow the plane. You have and then you have cockpit. So very simple camera system, and you can adjust what camera you want on there. Your checklist, you have your pre-flight inspection before starting, all the checklists basically for flight and the stages of the flight. You have them right here, which I think is very handy and I really like because it's just right there and I can do them up and practice them if need be. Your basic controls, this does nothing as far as I'm aware. All this is just some button layout of my joystick. I don't know. I don't really know what that does. Anyway, you have AI control. It can basically like it's basically an AI co-pilot. It can help you with a checklist assist, manage radio comms, or control your aircraft. I have it manage the radio comms, so it'll just do all the radio callouts for me rather than me having to go into the ATC window and click every response that I need to do. So very handy there. Your fuel, you can adjust your fuel and your payload right here from this. Rather than it being stuck on the menu before flight, you can adjust it in flight. Your Navlog, this is just basically your flight plan. Currently, I don't have one because I'm just showing this off. Let's see, the objectives, just an objective list. Like if you're playing an activity or a mode, say land on this runway at this airport or something, or it's just whatever. Yeah, apply full throttle and keep aircraft straight. So basically, it's just a guide. There's not much else to the objective list as far as I know. Travel to, that's the flight plan. Vfr Map gives you a map of where you are. We're currently at the Sitka airport, like in Alaska. It's a very nice airport, and it was an airport associated with a mission in the last iteration of the flight simulator. A very useful map just to kind of get a bearings of where you are. Then you have your weather presets and then your custom toolbar. So, okay, so let's talk about the actual pros and cons of the flight sim. Let's get into the meat and greet, what I like, what I don't like, and why. So, the biggest pro that this is the most graphically enhanced simulator currently out there. It is the most beautiful looking. It is the most accurate in terms of how the world actually is. It's impressive on a graphical scale in the clouds, in the terrain, in the water. Like we look out here, look at that water. It looks so good, and like the sunlight and everything. It's enhanced dramatically since the last iteration of the flight sim. The last sim was made in 2006, and it kind of looks like PS2 graphics. This is way more advanced, and it's super cool because it comes right out of the box. You can make other flight sims, including Flight Simulator 10, look like this, but it's like sold in add-ons, and it's usually lots of money. It can be hundreds, even thousands of dollars to get the world to look so accurate and have all the add-ons to do it. This is right out of the box. Nothing's been enhanced or changed really at all, and it's quite impressive. And the other impressive thing is that it's a global representation of the real world. So, like, you can find your buildings and you can find your places, like, here. Like, if I wanted to find my house, I can find it in the flight sim. Everything is laid out exactly. I can find roads that I know. I can find buildings that I know. Some of the buildings are accurately detailed, like supremely detailed, and it's just blown away. And, like, when I remember showing my friend the trailer for the flight sim, he had me pause on a sermon. It's like, hey, that's my city. and it looked up. It was so like it's a graphical wonder. And the thing is that I'm running this currently on a setup that is an AMD Ryzen 5 1600 6-core processor with 3.2 gigahertz. And graphically, I have a NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1060, 6 gigabytes, and 16 gigs of RAM. And it's able to run it surprisingly well, especially considering it's not the strongest setup in terms of a rig. The graphics are not all the way up because it can't run it, but I'm impressed that it's able to give this much graphical quality despite my setup. Like, it runs surprisingly smooth despite the frickin' despite my computer not being so powerful. Now, if you want this to be the most impressive, you will need a very powerful computer. You'll need a powerful graphics card, a powerful processor, 32 gigs of RAM ideally, and other things. And I do plan to upgrade my PC later in the year to be able to do that. But like, if you don't need it, you don't need a super powerful setup in order to do the for the sim to look good. But if you want to be able to run everything at full max, you're going to have to. Next Pro is, like I was saying, the ATC AI feature, in which the AI can handle all your radio comms. I find that so efficient and just so much better to do. I think it was a really nice add-on. It's not a super big thing, but it's something I really do like. Next Pro is the plane diversity. So you have a diverse area of planes to do, from small general aviation planes like this Cessna 172 all the way up to a Boeing 747, and things in between. Turboprops, little jets stuff. So you have a good diverse kind of realm to go with, and you have at least 20 planes with standard, and you got 30 planes if you got the premium edition. The diverse plane library helps with like player longevity a bit, and playing around with all the different planes and learning their cockpits and how they fly and behave, etc. So I think it is a decent list. It's not a big list, but it is a diverse list, so you have a decent amount of experience you can get in the different kinds of planes and how they feel and behave. The next pro I have is the flight planner. So in the previous menu, the flight menu before you enter into the sim, planning a flight is very easy. You select which airport, what's your airport you want to take off, what's the airport you want to land at. Makes a flight path for you instantly. You can adjust the things about it. It's very simple. Some other sims I've had experience with, they are not good at that at all. It was hard to make a flight plan. It was kind of complicated. This one makes it very simple and easy to use, even if you haven't done it before. So I appreciate Microsoft Flight Simulator for that. The next pro is the constant update. So Microsoft Flight Simulator is constantly updating the flight sim for free. So you're getting updates for free, and you get like you get like an addition add-on to like landmarks, more landmarks added to particular places around the world. More global accuracy. They're improving the accuracy even more if they think it's off. Changing elevations if needed, etc. Adding new things to do, and all of it's for free. So I do appreciate Microsoft doing that, giving free updates to the game, plus a couple things extra to do in each of the updates. So next pro is the UI. The UI is very efficient. I like the user interface a lot. It's easy to navigate the menus, easy to get started, all that jazz. It's pretty easy to learn and get used to. It's just very easy kind of UI, and that was my main complaints with X-Plane 10 when I had it many years ago, is I hated the UI. The UI in X-Plane 10 is garbage. Never ever make a sim with that UI. It was absolutely terrible. Fortunately, when X-Plane 11 came out, they improved the UI so much better. And the next pro I have is the in-flight menu. Like I said, I like these little in-flight menus. They're easy to grab and get a hold of real quick. Pretty effective, pretty efficient. Okay, now this does have a lot to offer about it, but there also are some cons, and personally I think there's a lot of big cons with the flight sim in terms of how it was released. So the first big con is the loading time. Loading time to boot this simulator up is like 5 to 10 minutes. So from the time you click to activate the program to the time you get to like the menu is like 5 minutes. Sometimes even longer. It takes a bit to boot up. It's like the longest thing ever to load. It's not necessarily new for flight sims, because flight sims do take a bit of time to boot up, but I don't know. I still think it's kind of long. So just be aware of that, is that the boot time to boot up the sim is going to take a few minutes. The next con is the low plane list. Like, you only get 20 planes with the standard, 30 if you get the premium, and that may seem like it's a fair amount, but like there's way more planes and helicopters out there than that. And that's the other thing. It comes with no helicopters. All of it is aircraft. Like the last iteration of the flight sim. Stop freezing on me. Come on. The last iteration of the flight sim, Flight Simulator 10, it had helicopters already with it. I think it only had 2, but it still had helicopters. This comes with no helicopters at all. You can't fly helicopters at all. It's kind of annoying. And like I said, a lone plane list, like only 20 to 30 planes depending on what edition you get. And I'm just like, if games like Forza and other vehicle-based games can give us like literally hundreds of available options, why can't we get that with the flight sim? It doesn't even have to be 100. Like, I'm thinking, like, to start, could we have maybe, like, 50? And then maybe with, like, the higher editions get, like, 70, 80, maybe even 100? Because it's just, like, there's a lot of aircraft out there. Lots of different aircraft. Warbirds and other airliners and things like that. I just think the list we got is very small. And honestly, we should have had more, considering this simulator was a long time in the process of being made. And the fact that other vehicle games like Forza can give us a huge library of vehicles to choose from, different old kinds of cars. We should get the same with the flight sim. So next one I have is the huge download. So this is going to take up space. This is an over 100 gigabyte download for this flight sim. So make sure you got the space for it, and it's going to take a while. This took maybe, it took all day to download it. Once the sim came out, it took all day to download it. Maybe even more, like more than 12 hours to download the entire sim, so just be aware of that. The next thing I would say is that multiplayer is barren. So in terms of multiplayer, you can have sessions, as far as I'm aware, but there's not really much else to them. You just have sessions and you do whatever you want. There's no like activities you can do in multiplayer, from what I was able to understand. There's no like games, there's no like modes, there's no like activities you can do in multiplayer. You basically just have a session and you just fly, you know? And I guess you can come up with games, you know, on there, but I feel like maybe multiplayer might be more fun or a little more, basically more to do, or the multiplayer modes would be more praised up if there was stuff to do or modes that you can have, like related to the planes. Like, oh, this session we're doing a landing challenge, or on this is like, oh, you know, planes have ribbons attached to their tails and try to cut each other's ribbons with your propellers. You know, something like that. There's nothing like that as far as I'm aware. At least not yet. Maybe they'll put it in a future update. So that's what I mean. Just multiplayer is like barren in terms of stuff to do. You can have your own session, whatever, but there's just not a lot to do in these sessions. Also, another note is that there's no tower mode in multiplayer as far as I'm aware. The last flight sim, you had the option to be in the tower and, you know, control air traffic control for the airport that you choose the session to be at. I don't think that exists in this flight sim, so, you know, get on it, Microsoft. Next thing is the live service. You have, well, the thing is, like, I appreciate the free updates, but it kind of feels like if the sim was not fully ready to be released, you know? Like, it's functioning. Like, I've only had one hard crash. Other than that, the simulator works fine. It's not broken like Cyberpunk. The sim's not broken at all. It's fully capable, fully ready. It's not glitchy at all. It's pretty dang solidly built. But at the same time, the constant free updates and stuff makes it feel like they were lacking in certain aspects, because I'm like, oh, this landmark wasn't in it, why not? Like a lot of these landmarks you're just adding after the fact, or these activities. So yeah, I think the live service thing is a bit wonky, but you know. Alright, and the last complaint I have is the single player mode, the single player activities. Because the thing is that free flight, yeah, it's fun. You get to go wherever you want, do whatever you want, but it gets kind of boring after a while, like very quickly, because you kind of have no purpose or no objectives in free flight. You're just basically just going around, and for some that might be good, but for most of the players in flight sims, I feel like they need something to do to kind of warrant using the sim and also be rewarded for the time spent in it. The thing is that the activities mode, like that I showed you in the menu, there's not much to do there. It's barren. It's little. It reminds me of Star Wars Battlefront 1 from 2015. It's like that. So like when you go into the activities, in fact, you know what? I'm just going to do that right now. Let's go to the activities board. Okay, let's go to the activities board here. So In activities, there's only 2 modes. You have landing challenges and bush trips. So landing challenges, attempt a perfect landing in trying conditions on a wide range of airports. Okay. And bush trips, test your navigation skills and fly long distance across remote locations. Okay, that's about it. So if you go to landing challenges, you'll see, all right, famous locations, epic locations, strong winds. So these are it. Now, these are fun. I've done a few of them. And sure, they're kind of fun because you get to land in a, exotic location, and you get to, try to improve your score and try to make the perfect landing as possible. So it adds that little competitive feel to it. It's like that can get old after a while, doing so many landing challenges. You feel like, man, I want to do something different. Well, the only other different thing you got is the bush trips, the flying remote locations. And these range, and these take 6 to 9 hours, all these here. So, that's going to take a bit of time, and they might be fun, but, it's just basically that. And that's it. There's nothing else to do. The last flight sim had lots you could do, a lot of different activities you can do, and there was even DLC made so that you could add more activities to it. You could do things like rescue, like fly a rescue copter and rescue people on a boat that's sinking, rescue people from a burning oil rig out in the ocean, fly in an ultralight, tri-ultralight aircraft to find a missing animal that escaped from a safari in Africa or something like that. Lots of different things. There's even like Reno air races. You could practice Reno air races or the Red Bull air races between the pylons. There was a lot. Bottom line, there was just a lot of them. A lot of different activities over a wide range of things you can do with certain objectives that you could complete. This sim, you only get this. And it kind of doesn't make... It makes it kind of boring because you have very little you can do. Like I said, it reminds me of Star Wars Battlefront 1, where the lack of single-player modes you can do. There's only like 3. This one, there's only like 2. The only other thing you can do here is an activities like the training missions. The training to fly the aircraft. And in terms of that, you've learned to fly a Cessna 152 or an Airbus A320, and the Airbus A320 only have 2 training missions, taking off and landing. The Cessna 152 has more, but that's just it. You basically see what I'm talking about. It's just lacking. Extremely lacking in terms of stuff to do. Yes, you have free flight, but again, that gets boring like after an hour. You want the game to have purpose. You want to be like rewarded for the things you do. And like I guess you do level up the more hours you spent in it, but again, do you want to do that just flying from one location to another just randomly for no particular reason at all? That's just the deal with it. And I just think that this game would be so much beneficial with more activities to do. So, all right. So now there's the pros and cons. Now we're moving on to the next section is how can I think it be improved? So what do I think can be added to the sim to vastly improve it? One is the ability to customize plane aesthetics. So in the planes, if we go to, let's say, world map and select the different planes, let's say this, you have something called liveries. Those are basically the different paint schemes you have available to you. Most of these planes only have 3. One of them being the normal one, and then 2 of them being like flight simulator branded planes. And that's it. You don't have much in terms of how your planes look. The last flight sim had more options available in terms of how your plane looks. This is what I mean by the live service thing. Like, I appreciate the free updates, but it feels like they didn't release a full product. Because like some things in terms of what you can select are minimal, like the lack of single-player activities and the lack of liveries to choose from. Some third-party planes, like I have a Caronado, Cessna 182, should be over here, yeah. So this is a third-party developed plane. You go there, you have a little more. You only have 4, but they at least have it's a variety of paint schemes, So what I think would benefit the sim is that you get a way for us to be able to customize. Similarly in Forza, you can paint your car however you want it. Wide range of colors, letters, shapes, stuff. You can basically make the car look exactly how you want it. The only limit is your imagination. We should have something like this in the flight sim, where I can take a plane, start out with a blank white fuselage, and then paint it however I want. That would be awesome. You could personalize your aircraft. That would be so much fun for me to do. I would probably spend hours making my own kind of liveries and stuff. Well, I don't have that option, and I think would really be beneficial. And changing, too, because there's no flight sim has had this before, as far as I'm aware. The second thing that can be done to improve, more activities. The landing and bush trips are minuscule. Those can get old after a while because it's just repeating the same thing. Like landing challenges, yes, they're fun, but doing them over and over again, and all challenges basically being landing challenges, like, come on, there's more challenges than that in terms of flying. You know, like failure challenges or whatever. There just needs to be more activities to do. Wide range of stuff, similarly to how the first Flight Simulator 10, released 14, 15 years ago, had more stuff to do in terms of activities. You know, wide range of different activities with wide range different amounts of aircraft. You know, it needs to be more like that. Because the lack of activities is really depressing to me. Like, it should have more activities. The multiplayer modes, I think, like, you should add some more multiplayer modes to it, where there's, like, a certain objective that needs to be completed, or, like, some team-based thing, capture the flag, just something to do with multiplayer modes, maybe that make it more fun, because as far as I'm concerned, there's none of that, from what I'm able to see and research. So, you know, I guess you could make up a game, like I said, in there, but there's no specific modes for it, and I feel like maybe there could be more fun if you had some specific modes to the flight sim. You know, in some games you could play in multiplayer, either team-based or one-on-one based, you know, free-for-all based, whatever, you know. The next thing is just more aircraft. Like, yeah, I have a decent library, but we should probably be able to get more, especially considering the fact that lots of other games are able to provide more vehicles in theirs, like Forza. Forza literally gives you hundreds of cars just from even the standard packages. Like, and I don't even need maybe even 100 planes in the standard package, like just more than 20. You know, maybe I feel like it should be 50, you know, and then the next one's 80, and then the next one's 100. You know, that would be better. Like, there's just so many aircraft that Microsoft, I feel like, could have put in the game and make the library even bigger and add value to it. Because now, basically, if you want an aircraft, you'll have to wait for a third party to develop it, and when they do, it's going to cost you $30 to $40. You know, DLC for Flight Sim is expensive, in case you don't know. And the last thing I'll say is that maybe in the updates they have more content and new content to put, like a new type of activity besides a landing challenge or a bush flying trip. That would be beneficial, you know, just in the updates themselves, besides updating like accuracy of the world or landmarks, also give more stuff to do. Or, you know, just make the updates more valuable, I would say. Right, so in conclusion, my take on the new Flight Sim is this. It's a greatly updated simulator in terms of the graphics, accuracy, UI, but it's lacking in a lot of core areas like activities you can do, things you can do, or just giving a sense of purpose. Free flight is the main mode of the sim, and that seems what Microsoft is focusing on. And it is cool, like I said, but flying without a sense of reward or purpose just gets to you. So, you know, like if I just want to fly, like, I'd rather do that in real life. That would be more worth of value to me personally. The sim just seems to be lacking content and is trying to make up for the lack of content and activities for you to do just by making the sim very pretty. And yeah, the sim is pretty, but, you know, underneath it, there's not much to it. So what I would recommend is that there is this new this new third-party application called the Sky Park, made by a company called Parallel 42, and basically it's an add-on to the flight sim in which, like, it tries to give you some things like contracts you can do, like deliver such and such to this location. You know, it gives you a contract, and you sign up for the contract, and you fulfill the contract. You get rewarded money, XP, and it basically operates like a business. You know, so it kind of gives you purpose to the flight sim. So if anyone was going to get any DLC, I recommend that, because it kind of makes the flight sim a little more feeling like you're getting rewarded for the time you're putting into it. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Microsoft Flight Simulator. I would say, if I were to give it a score, like a 6 out of 10. Like, I like it, and I think, like, if you are a flight sim enthusiast like I am, yeah, it's definitely worth the purchase, but I'm wanting more stuff to do. And so yeah, basically, in conclusion, I like the sim. I think it's a graphical achievement, a technological achievement on so many levels. Like, I'm completely blown away by the global representation accuracy and me being able to find landmarks that I recognize whenever I'm flying to locations I know, and the look of the world and the fact that my computer can run it despite not being a super powerful computer. But like I said, I wish there was just more to the sim to do besides the free flight mode. More challenges of different variety and other things. So, okay, so I hope you all enjoyed this review, and hopefully you gained something out of it, insight in terms of the flight sim, and understand my feelings behind it. So thank you for watching. If you liked the video, go ahead and leave a like, helps out a lot, and also subscribe if you aren't already for more content. There'll be more reviews and other kinds of content coming to the channel soon. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Ta-ra.